You start moving gates around. That's right. You know, it's
I'm ready. Everybody ready? I'd like to call this regular meeting of the City of South Daytona council meeting to order. If you will call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Young.
Here.
Councilwoman Long. Here. Councilwoman O'Neill. Here. Councilman Schoner.
Here.
Mayor Hall.
Here.
Mr. Simpson.
Here.
Mr. Yarborough.
Right. Everybody would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening and thank you for all the many blessings. We pray, dear Heavenly Father, you help us learn to love our neighbor. We ask, dear Heavenly Father, you be with these on the dais this evening, and the decisions are a reflection of you and your expectations of this community and our lives. In thy name, amen.
I need a motion for approval of the March 13th, 2018 minutes, please.
Move to approve. Second.
Any comments, corrections, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. At this point on the agenda, it says citizens to be heard, comment on any issue or agenda item. I like to open that up to anything that's on your mind, anything in the world, anything, whatever you want to talk about, please. Now is your time to come up and speak with us. If you would, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kathy Banker, and I live at 1930 West Ridgewood Avenue, South Daytona.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
I wanted to thank you that the last time I spoke there was some improvement made, not real good, but some improvement was made on the car wash. We have another problem that's been going on for 2 years, Mark's Sports Pub. I've talked to the zoning mister over there, and he said he was going to talk to him again, because there for a while they calmed down, and now with the construction started, I can deal with construction. But when I can hear his music over top of that construction, I think that's a little bit too loud. This weekend was the pits. It was bad. I was ready to go over there and knock heads together. I swear I was. 2 o'clock in the morning, they're blaring that music. That's ridiculous. Number one, I shouldn't be able to hear it in my house. Not as far away as I am from that bar. And if maybe you could put a bug in somebody's ear over there, I would appreciate it.
Did you happen to call dispatch this weekend?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I sure did.
Maybe we can
3 times.
Maybe we can find out what happened when you called.
Probably unfounded. It's usually what happens, because when they go by there, either the door is shut or they're at a break and they're not playing their music as loud. It happens. Or they wait until after the police officers are there. They wait maybe 15 minutes. You can time them. The music goes right back up again. It's like they wait until the police officers leave and then they crank it back up again.
You have our ear, so we'll see what we can, if we can't get something extra on it.
I would appreciate it. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you. By all means, Frank, come on up.
Frank Amendolia, 791 Aspen Drive. I'm here for a specific purpose, and it's to address Councilman Long on a comment you made on February 27th in the comment section. I take exception to your statement about the issue about parking. I have no idea where you're coming from. You know, I started the summer of 2007 fighting back with the city over parking issues. The subdivision was getting run down. Commercial vehicles, people parking on the lawns, boats in the driveways. I can go on and on. And over those years, we've had ups and downs. I've made a few people angry, probably maybe a lot of people angry. But I feel like I'm playing good cop, bad cop, and I'm not the good cop. You make those kind of comments about trying to find ways or excuses of why people should be allowed to park on the lawn. I have a real problem with. When you suggest that people be able to park on their lawns overnight, on weekends, on special events, what are you thinking? I mean, it's our property values. Two things happen when you have blight, and blight happens with your suggestions. Two things happen. Investments, property values go down, crime goes up. It's not rocket science. And your approach to this thing is unbelievable. The city just went through the effort of now citing people. They now have an implement for $25 fines, which I think is great. It's long overdue. And now it's like you're trying to unravel the thing or come up with, your empathy for people is, you need to have empathy for us. We're the people that are trying to keep the tax base up. And your suggestions do just the opposite. So I take offense. I know you have this thing about empathy that drives me nuts because you're always looking at it from the wrong perspective. Stop thinking about the 10% of the people. Start thinking about the 90% of the people. You and I have disagreed on many, many issues, including the FPL debacle, which cost the city over $2.5 million. Bill that are basically looking or saying, you can't make me not park on my lawns. And the city is fighting with that. And I've been fighting with the city, and I don't mean to do that, but the frustration sets in. And then your February 27th comment, I find it unbelievable. And one suggestion, you have us come up in the very beginning of the meetings. Save us for the end. Because with that type of suggestion, if I had been here that night, I would have stood up here then. And as it is, I didn't make that meeting. But if we come up first, it's too late after these type of suggestions that I think are crazy, personally. Sorry, but I think it's crazy. That we have a right to respond to that. And we have no ability if we come up first.
Tonight, so.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, maybe have us at the end so that we can respond to these type of comments. Because now you only have one meeting a month. At least when you had two, you only had to wait 2 weeks to kind of come back at that. Now you got a whole month to stew over something like that.
Right,
So,
I appreciate you coming up. Thank you.
So thank you.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak about anything that's on their mind tonight? Seeing and hearing none, I'll bring it back to the agenda. It looks like, Mr. Yarborough, will have a presentation by FDOT Regional Trail Alignment Program.
That's right. I'm going to let the introductions begin, if I may.
Consulting group, consultant for this project. With me here today is Amy engineer. Excuse me. So, St. John's Loop PD&E study from State Road 44 to Bevel Road. We're here to information, introduce the project, outline the study objectives and schedule, share information about this project, and receive your input. This is a little discussion about the purpose of the trail: promote non-motorized travel, to increase mobility, improve connectivity, enhance economic prosperity, and promote healthy living. This is a multi-use trail, so it can be used by bicyclists, pedestrians, skaters, and so forth. This is a facility operated from vehicular travel, and requirement to meet the National Environmental Policy Act, also known as NEPA. These are just some things here, what we're looking at. We're trying to determine social, natural, and cultural and physical impacts. We're looking to work with the public, receive their input. Here we have the CFL Roads website, which is where we can get some more information on this project by entering the project number. Costs, I'll move pretty quick. Multi-use truck, and will be done. And again, here's some more find on the website for the Central. The study area that we're doing. So, cities, all of it will be all connected in with Edgewater, Volusia County, and so forth once it's all complete. So, and to implement the alignment, project. Looking at crashes, existing drainage contamination sites, threatening endangered species, wetlands, and so forth. And looking to in front of the New Smyrna Beach Airport. This is a continuation along US 1. Here we're still on US 1 going to the north. Here we're along Nova Road. From Halifax, then we would come up and now the area in South Daytona. So and to connect to and utilize that existing connection from here on so I'll get into some of the details on those. trail. Now, so that's an open issue on this. It's a good safe route. As you can see, located along here, along this side, we have the transmission, which you can see along here. That had to be done, and coming through here into private. So we can excuse me. What else do we have? Yeah, for mailboxes, and then thank you. Questions?
Questions or comments?
Sure.
Vice Mayor, we'll start with you if you have some.
Well, we've discussed this at council before, I think it was last month. You know, the driveways, the narrowness, those kinds of things. I'll speak for myself. I understand the Reed Canal concern. I guess my 2 cents, I like the Reed Canal to Carmen option. I guess the question I have with the trees, I'll show my ignorance here. I'm a business guy, not a naturalist. So those trees cannot be moved, I assume.
You would need to have lateral clearance from the road to the trail, and you can't put them in between. And we would put the trail as far back as we can to the right-of-way, and I don't think there's going to be enough availability to incorporate them on the backside. You have some of those areas, I think like 14 feet maybe of right-of-way, or sorry, from the edge of travel lane to the right-of-way lines, about 14 feet it reduces down to. So to put trail, we wouldn't have the lateral separation from the roadway to the trail, and to also have adequate room to put in the trees back in. And that area varies. I think it goes from like 14 to 18, but even with the 18 feet, you're not going to be able to put that in.
And as someone who scoots around a lot of sidewalks around here and stuff on bikes and stuff, I know one other thing I have with a lot of the residential, and you talk about as a con with is the driveways and those things.
Yeah.
We deal, as was talked a little bit earlier, it's, parking issues and challenges, and number of cars and driveways and those kind of things. People are not always going to be obedient about keeping their cars not on the sidewalk.
Sure.
Another thing I see is...
Yeah, resistance from the public as well. The property owners might not like it.
Correct. So
Agreed.
I see that Carmen as a, now again, I'm not down to go knock down 75 trees, and I hear the thing about
Yeah.
the trucks and the public's delivery and
Yeah.
that thing. But as someone who, if I were to just go, I live off Sauls, I take the bicycle, I took it all the way to US 1 and had dinner there at the new restaurant. That sidewalk's a little tight on Reed Canal, those things, and I'm not taking 3 teenagers or a couple
Sure.
of 10-year-olds on Reed Canal, and share that pathway with cars. So, I'm scooting around with that Richmond Bay, and it's tight around there. So you see there, and I'm like, this would be a lot better function, it seems like, than dealing with those driveways and stuff. My 2 cents. I wasn't sure where we were going with this, but that's kind of my 2 cents on that. And I see your schedules with the workshop. We would have those forms again. You're saying.
We're going to be, when we did the kickoff meeting, it was more of, hey, this project is on its way. We had done some preliminary evaluation on some alignments so that we wouldn't go to the public and show things that weren't going to be feasible. So we looked at some of that first, then came and said, hey, this is kind of some options that we're looking at. We're just here to get everyone's feedback and get some ideas and local knowledge that we may not know of any issues and so forth. So when we come back in September, we're looking to come with a more refined alternative and say this is the direction that we're looking to go, but we'd like to get another opportunity from the public and the city council and others on what we're showing, and so offer that opportunity in case we need to make any refinements based on what we're presenting. Once that we get everyone's feedback, we'll send out a newsletter on what's been selected to the affected along business owners, whatever it may be along that route, and then we'll finalize the documents and then get the approval with the department.
Well, I'm sure where I kind of think about it, and it's the last part, we have so many artery little roads that are residential. I mean, we're a residential community. It's enough for people to be, shooting down Hope and these things that cut across from Reed to Bevel and all those different things. Another thing that, to me, Carmen, I know there's some residential there that still has the least amount of impact. That whole thing, I know, no option's perfect, but to me, to Reed to Carmen is definitely to Ridge are the better options.
Correct.
I think that's the consensus of all of us this long.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm glad you're having another public meeting. I know at TPO that there were elected officials upset. They felt that they hadn't been informed. So I think make sure that you invite them to any of these.
I followed up on that. We did send the notices out. It might have slipped through the cracks, but we checked on that the emails were sent.
Okay, and so this will be good that we have better public input on this next one. And I agree. I think as everyone says, that Reed Canal Road is really most dangerous, and it's very pedestrians or bikers. I mean, it's a dangerous street, and if we could get the bike trail with the safety features, the cantilevered finisher, I guess the walkway there, and I rode the route today, and I agree that Anastasia is very tight. Even Florida, and it looks so spacious in the pictures, but there's really not, those are residential areas.
Sure.
And I'm a big environmentalist. I would hate to lose 75 trees, but it may be the option that we might have to consider on Carmen. So I'd be willing to go out and help plant new trees if we have to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we do the grates around the trees on Carmen?
Do what?
Some cities around the trees, they have the grates. You could pave up to the grade and leave the trees, make it part of the walkway?
You can't have any obstructions within the 12 feet. It would have to be outside of that.
Well, I'm confused, I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you say it went from 8 to 12?
No, you're allowed to do whenever you're in restricted areas, like if you're in an environmentally sensitive area, or if you want to, you can go and do variance for that. Any other area you have to do.
I didn't want to I didn't want a confrontation tonight, and I don't know if staff's met with you, but we've measured Carmen. You can get 8 to 10 foot in there with grades, and that does not obstruct.
Yeah.
Now, but I want you to get with staff, and I'm trying to intervene.
No, that's
but
fine.
the last meeting, the council was pretty adamant. They wanted to try to use Carmen if you're going to have to cut across the city. And we want you to take another look at it, and it might be that roadway a little bit with a F curve, and you can make it work within your confines. But I think that's what I heard Councilwoman O'Neill leading toward. There has to be some way to accommodate. It's beautiful with those trees.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we hate to take them down.
I'm sorry.
No, that's it. That's was my question.
Okay.
Mr. Sean?
I guess I'm a little sensitive about those trees because I had them put in.
So you put them in and she'll replace.
I mean, we put a lot of work into planting those trees. But anyway.
So you put them in the wrong place, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, you take responsibility. Why didn't you have the foresight, Ralph?
Yeah, I should have thought about that. I don't know how I messed up like that. But it's with the DOT right there, then it kind of complicated things also. I mean, not DOT, but the FEC railway. I'm looking at your drawing on page 9, where it has the, this is a simplistic view of where it's going, where it's coming from. You don't show any deviation at all to the west, and I guess that's simply for simplification reasons, because you're going from point A to point B, except for around Terminal Bay and all that.
Yeah, this right here, we just showed it straight along US 1 because we considered this, when we started the project, we were calling it what was referred to as like the spine or the backbone of the project, since the largest portion of it is along US 1 in the rural section. I'm calling it rural based on typical section. It's an open drainage system. It's not curb and gutter and so forth. So this is just a general overview of the map. There are conditions for the Sun Trail as to how far away you can go. You can't go like 4 miles off, deviating from the connections and so forth. So that's one of the things that kept us to try and be more direct and not go like way west of Nova Road and so forth.
Okay. So early on, apparently,
You want to chime in?
ruled out.
Go ahead.
So just adding on that, the whole, this is like John showed in the other map, it's part of the whole St. John's River to Sea loop, and the whole master plan that came from there ran along US 1. So that's why this map specifically runs US 1, but we are allowed to, is it 3 miles? There's a certain, like you said, I think it's like a mile or so we can go off of US 1, and like you said earlier, going along the roadway maybe isn't the most ideal, so we're trying to find other alternatives.
Okay. But early on, I guess you ruled out US 1 in our section.
Yeah, in that section, basically it boils down to right-of-way. You have about 100 feet of right-of-way, and the way it's built right now with the 4 lanes divided with the median, and you have the bike lane and the sidewalk, because you can't replace the bike lane with the trail, you don't have any room to be able to accommodate. I think there's like 5-foot sidewalks out there today, and you wouldn't have enough width. And you also have the utilities on both sides, utility poles, which is prohibiting your, And in addition to that, you're at a lot higher speed. You have a lot of the driveways, which are going to cause conflict points and so forth. I know the hardcore cyclists are still going to want to use the bike lanes, but for other uses, I think it's a lot safer for people to be on the lower speed facilities, such as Carmen or some of the other residential routes.
And Riverside Drive in Port Orange, do you have that much separation down there between them?
In Port Orange, extremely close to the roadway. So we had originally ruled out putting it along that because we didn't have the width. The city of Port Orange told us that they're going to turn that into a one-way street, and so we're going to have just one lane where we'll utilize the other lane and we're able to make it work. We got the width. Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the re-canal options,
Mhm.
if they were to sheet pile it, I don't understand where that would constrict the flow if they didn't go too far out into the canal.
Yeah, you want to speak? Okay.
As far as restricting the flow, I'm not really 100% sure on the data on that, but do you want?
David, you want to talk a little bit about that? He's our drainage engineer.
Yeah, just curious how far into the canal you would sheet pile, because you'd have to go in a long way to restrict the flow.
Well, right now, you'd want to keep the guardrail to protect the pedestrians from, so then from there, you're coming off 12 feet, and then you probably have another foot for header for the sheet piles. So it's about 13 feet, which would be, it's, you know, a little bit further up. What we're showing here is kind of like a normal tide in Florida. The 100-year gets up into here, and we're just inside that where the sheet pile would be. So the everyday flows, we probably wouldn't have an impact. It's the extreme events that you want to make sure that you don't lose the bank on the other side, because once it's constricted, it's going to start eroding the other side. And that's one of the things we'd have to look at.
But you wouldn't move the guardrail, I mean, once you sheet piled it back in there, a little closer to the road, perhaps, you wouldn't move the guardrail towards, close to the sheet pile.
Well, you still want to protect the pedestrians and bicyclists from the traffic. And then there would be a handrail on the other side, or a retaining wall with a handrail to keep the bikes from going off into the canal.
If I may, we've got a typical on that. It doesn't show an impediment. This is not the first time we looked at it, and I thought it was shared with you, but I'd like to get my engineers, in-house engineers, back in touch, because we can't afford to impede the flow. But we were labored under the impression it would help by getting some of that off the bank.
Exactly.
Move it. So,
Is that from the
and I
study
think
from the-
if we all had looked at it very carefully, I'd like for you to take another look at it, and I'm asking Les to make sure that you got what we're working off of.
Okay.
Fair enough? And we don't want you to have to redesign that if we can help it.
Well, that's the other point. The cantilever, the intention of the cantilever is to go over the water. Right.
Build it over the water?
Still have to support.
Right.
Okay. Right now, what we looked at was having it right on the edge. If we bring it up underneath, the pad gets thicker. Again, these are all costs. So as the pad gets thicker to hold it out over there with the wall on the outside to protect it from going over, you know, you got to make sure that we get, and
We had to
we're,
anchor back under the road.
yeah,
Right,
and
right.
at this point, we're not into those details yet.
Okay.
I mean, we're still trying to look at the feasibility, but anything that we put the wall in is almost cost prohibitive for the Sun Trail funds. That's what we're finding out.
Yeah, we're looking at, with these options, you're going to be somewhere from, what, like $3.5 maybe to $6 million just for this piece, whereas the entire trail will probably cost $3 million.
Yeah. I
The
just
whole
want to get a sense
14
of
miles to do
what
it,
you
yeah,
looked
it's
at.
very expensive.
Yeah, well, I agreed.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and keep in mind that we get 25 million a year statewide. So, I mean, we can definitely, if that's the route we go, we can put it on the priority list for Sun Trail, but keep in mind that the cheaper we can make it, the quicker we can get the trail out. So we got to kind of weigh those and see what's the desire of the
And
community.
can these funds be leveraged
What do you mean?
with other PPO funding?
I believe so. I don't see any reason why.
There's a reason I asked that, okay.
Now, the only thing is, the study we're doing right now is assuming state funds, and so are we going to federal document? If we use federal funding, we need to maybe go back up to the PD&E and make sure it's a federal standard. So we've been assuming state funds because Sun Trail is state funded. But it's not a big deal, we'd have to do a process.
No, it's just because of we lost right-of-way that we thought we had on the north side, which would have made it a whole lot easier to accommodate it, but apparently that's not.
Just so I'm clear, you're going to come up US 1 to in Port Orange up to Nova Road, then you're going to go down Nova Road to come back up.
Yeah, you're going to be...
Madeline?
Yeah, this is Nova, and then it comes up to Spruce Creek. There's already a design project by the DOT along Spruce Creek where they're going to put a 10-foot trail on the west side and an 8-foot sidewalk on the east side. So we're going to utilize that piece up to Commonwealth. Then Commonwealth will take us down to Riverside, Halifax, which takes us over to across where the Dunlawton Bridge is. When you cross that, there's an existing road which the city is going to convert just into a trail, so that piece is going to be removed and it's going to tie into their park system,
Right.
which loops all around. It comes along US 1 where they've already built the 8-foot that we need, and then we're going to go up Charles Street up to McDonald, and McDonald already has an existing 8-foot as well that we could be utilizing.
So then from McDonald Street, you're going to come into our city
Onto
via
Sauls, correct.
Okay.
And so Sauls, then we jump down here at Ridge, and then we get into the options, at Reed Canal, where the options of here. The most direct, shortest, and cheapest is just going along Pope and making the straight connection onto Ridge Boulevard.
And then from Ridge Boulevard, you want to come to,
Along the water on Palmetto, and then Palmetto.
along the water, along Palmetto?
Oh, so not the water, yeah, along Palmetto, I'm sorry.
So you'll be on the east side of Palmetto.
Yeah, that's where we're on the east side, and then it'll tie into the existing trail that's at this location at Bevel, going into the Daytona.
I know that from our previous meeting that Anastasia's out.
Correct.
Florida's not much in favor.
Okay.
Carmen is probably our desired roadway.
Okay. And how do you feel about this?
I'd have to go back and look at Pope.
Because like Amy was saying, in terms of funding and how quick, something like this would be very cheap and would definitely accelerate things if we were to do that. And then the other thing is, whatever does get built, there's nothing prohibiting connections to be built later on in the future. If it's from the TPO or whatever, we can always have that. But the Sun Trail does not allow for breakaway connections. We're strictly trying to close the gaps all the way through.
You didn't bring me photographs of Palmetto, I'm just curious.
Of Palmetto?
There's a lot of driveways on Palmetto, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's almost as crowded on certain sections of Palmetto as it is on Anastasia.
And in that section, it's either Palmetto or US 1, and
Right.
really, it's the same issue either way, whether it's residential or
Yeah.
commercial.
The one of the benefits through here is, from my recollection, the homes are set back quite far from the road.
Many
So
of them, yes.
That's very helpful. Again, it's very low speed through here, but the setback is really one of the best features of that.
And lower speed
Yeah, no
than
low
US
speed,
1.
yeah.
The path north of Bevel Road, how wide is that?
10,
It's
I
at least
believe.
10, right?
Yeah, I believe that's 10.
But it
The one
squeaks
that's
down
constructed.
to about 6 or 8 at the corner there of Bevel Road because of that.
Well, it actually starts north of Bevel, so anything that's beneath that wouldn't be 10.
That's where we would
Yeah.
tie in, so we would need to bring
We would
this
have
trail
to-
in to
Yeah,
tie
it'll
into
curve
that.
around and then connect onto it. So the north-south piece is what's been built, and I know it's at least 10, I believe it is 10, not 12 through here going.
I know it's wide.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry it took so long.
Oh, no.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bring it back to the agenda. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bear with me a few minutes if you would. We had as we all are keenly aware, the untimely retirement of our police chief a couple of weeks ago. The problem it caused was compounded by the fact that not only did we have the vacancy then of the head of the police department, but we also have 3 vacancies within the rank and file, one off with workers' comp, and 2 that have vacated their positions for other jobs in other police departments. We're trying to recruit now. We're hopeful, but we have a hole in manpower. At the time, and I owe a great deal of thanks to you, Mark Cheatham. I looked within the ranks, and he and Stephen stepped up. Mark said he would take over Lieutenant Cheatham said he would take over the acting position until your city manager had a chance to evaluate the depth of our manpower, coupled with the necessity to get someone in there as administrative chief. And to work as a bridge within the department until we get a permanent chief on board. To wit, I want to make an introduction, which I don't think is necessary, but I'm going to tell you about the person that is going to be your new chief of police until we get a chief of police. He comes in here with over 44 years of experience. Pretty impressive. He retired after 28 years in Allentown, Pennsylvania as chief. He retired after 16 years in Port Orange as chief, and interestingly enough, he did 2 years as public safety director. That put him over the police department and the fire department there. And that's an arduous task, if any of you can imagine. He has a master's degree in arts. He finished the FBI Academy. He was the governor's appointment to the Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission for the state of Florida. He's past president of Lucia Chiefs Association and the Florida Chiefs Association. He headed up or worked on a state task force of trafficking and state law enforcement consolidation. He's a member of the International Police Chiefs Association, Pennsylvania Association of Police Chiefs. He's a member of the Florida Volusia County Police Chiefs Association. He's also a former member of the Daytona State College Criminal Advisory Council. Beauty behind it is he lives right here in South Daytona, and he works very closely with Police Chiefs Association of the state of Florida to assist city managers in their recruitment of a police chief. And he reaches out on a state national recruiting basis. His name is Jerry Monahan, soon to be, well, he's going to be Chief of Police of South Daytona in administrative capacity immediately. He's under contract for until we get a full-time police chief in here, and he will be full-time. He'll be taking the oath of office as soon as we clear the paperwork required, and we hopefully will have that done this week. I want you to stand up, Jerry. I want you all, everybody knows Jerry, don't you? Jerry Monahan, the new police chief for South Daytona. And again, I want to thank you too. Both of y'all stand up. Hey, this is tough. This is Mark and Stephen Pignataro. Both of them are Cheatham. Both of them have headed up. Mark has taken the lead, and you ought to be relieved a little bit, Mark. We expect you to give the same support you gave me to the chief here, and we're going to get through this hurdle. We're going to come out of it fine. Thank you. Do you have anything you want to say?
In Port Orange, we always have to say our name first and our address. So, Jerry Monahan, South Palmetto Avenue in your lovely city. I'm here for you for the next 90 days, 120 days, whatever it takes, and we will keep things moving in the same positive direction that they're moving right now, and work very hard to hire a very professional police chief, one that's going to make a commitment to this community in the long run, and be an asset to your community. And I welcome any input into that regard as we get through the process. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Appreciate you stepping up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for stepping up. I watched you get sworn in to Port Orange one afternoon. I think one of the officers passed out that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we were there, and it's kind of interesting that here we are this many years later, but I personally want to thank you, Jerry. We've worked together a lot over the last 15 years, 16 years, and I can't think of anybody better to fill in for us, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate being here, too. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jerry. Moving along, you should have gotten an updated memorandum for your budget calendar. It does not change any dates. It simply adds something to an existing date, July the 10th. This body will sit and review what fines we're going to turn over to the Property Appraiser's Office for collection on a non-ad valorem basis. Okay, just pointing that out. It's more editorial than anything else. Some good news. The St. Johns River Water Management District approved today about $205,000 in grant funds for the city for the septic to sewer project. That, coupled with our community development block grant funds and the $500,000 appropriation from the Department of Environmental Protection, puts our budget at $825,430. We have 75% of those on record that have not signed up for that are not on the sewer system currently that have committed. For you that, let's see, I had that number down there. That's 164 property owners that signed up to hook up. We have it broke down in two phases because of the funding schedule. We will be hopefully starting this project in October of this year. That would be the bulk of the money, $705,000. The community development block grant funds of $121,000 will kick in for the remainder of the projects in March of 2019. So look for a contract award in September or October. And of course, we'll be sure to have that out on the in the agenda packs come. Finally, I'm asking you if you'll consider moving your May meeting to May the 22nd. We have a major project interested in development on the river in lieu of where the condos were proposed. It's $35–40 million project, and we'd like to have some site plans and some other stuff ready for your review at that meeting. It's good news also. That's all I have to report, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney's report.
No comments.
Under old business, Scott, if you would please ordinance 18-03 by title.
Ordinance number 18-03 by title only for second and final reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of South Daytona, Florida, amending Chapter 4, Animals and Fowls, Article 1, General, deleting references to vicious animals and updating regulations to current practices, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
I need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is a public hearing, the second reading public hearing. If anybody would like to speak for or against ordinance 18-03, now is your opportunity. Seeing and hearing none, I'll bring it back to Mr. Yarborough. Any further comment?
All it is we're honing in on the ordinance to get it more compliant with what's on the state statutes. Scott did a good job in getting this up to date.
Council, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scott, if you would, under new business, resolution 18-07, please, by title.
Resolution number 18-07 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City of South Daytona, Florida, calling for a general election to be held August 28, 2018, and a runoff election to be held November 6, 2018, if necessary, for the purpose of electing council members for Seat 2 and Seat 3, setting forth the dates for qualifying, authorizing appointment of the clerks, inspectors, and deputies, designating polling places for the voters, appointing Lisa Lewis as supervisor of the elections and custodian of the voting machines, designating the city clerk as elections official, providing for dates and times of opening the polls and early voting, designating the Volusia County Canvassing Board as certifying authority for the election, and providing an effective date.
First and only readings. I need a motion, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any comments? Cheryl, anything?
This is a standard operating procedure every 2 years.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scott, if you would, resolution 18-08, please, by title.
Resolution number 18-08 by title only for first. A resolution of the City of South Daytona, Volusia County, Florida, supporting the one-year renewal to the interlocal agreement for distribution of proceeds of local option fuel tax for the period of September 1st, 2018 through August 31st, 2019, and providing an effective date.
First and only reading. Need a motion, please?
Move for approval. Second.
Mr. Yarborough?
15 years ago, I believe it was, it could have been 10, I can't remember, it's probably in a transmittal memo. The county adopted a gasoline tax. They split it with the cities. They split it with the cities, and the cities split it among themselves in a knockdown, drag-out, crazy formula that takes into effect population, road miles, and something I never understood, but the larger cities got it through, and that was valuation, what your overall property valuation is. The cities have been living under it, and every 5 years it's up for debate. It's up for debate this summer, and I dread it because it usually is pretty ugly at the managers' meeting. But they came to the conclusion this was a bad year to take up this discussion of this. And what they're really upset over is that the population changes and shifts, but the formula doesn't reflect it, and they need to have it updated, and they can't agree on how to update it. So what they're asking all the cities to do is to adopt a resolution asking the county to extend the existing formula for 1 more year, and they want to get through this half-cent sales tax that they anticipate will be on the ballot in November. See how that comes out and tackle it next year, and what you have is a resolution saying, fine. All the formulas that we've discussed with in the past have not that significant of a fiscal impact on South Daytona. It does on Port Orange, and it does on DeLand, and it does in some of these cities that's grown a great deal in population over the years since the gas tax was adopted. But they are the ones saying, let's don't take it on until another year, so I said, fine, I'll put it on your agenda, and I wouldn't think there'd be any reason why we wouldn't support a continuation of the existing formula for another year.
Don't see where we have a whole lot of option anyway.
It's a weighted vote, which makes it worse, right?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scott, if you would, Resolution 18-09 by title.
Resolution number 18-09 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City of South Daytona, Florida, approving a lighting agreement with the Florida Power and Light Company for the installation of LED streetlights and authorizing the city manager to execute said agreement, providing for appeal of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Need a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second?
Mr. Yarborough?
I may explain, this is also good news, I think. Florida Power and Light has done what a lot of states are doing and a lot of utilities across the nation are doing. They're going from the sodium street lights to LED. There's a lot of advantages to LED for Florida Power and Light. A, they consume a lot less energy. Secondly, they're a lot more reliable. They finally said the industry caught up with it. The technology caught up with what they felt like the Florida climate would accommodate. The technology could accommodate the Florida climate, and they're going around asking you, are you willing to participate? The beauty behind this is there's no fiscal impact. Their savings are so significant that they're willing to make the change out to these LED lights at their own cost. Matter of fact, it's going to end up being a little bit less.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, they are. They're absorbing the difference on the cost for changing them out through the cost of life expectancy of the light.
All right.
If I said something wrong?
My understanding
I
is
didn't think so.
we have to pay for the lights, but there's a projected electricity savings that will more than offset the cost.
But there's still no fiscal impact.
No, we should have a savings, but we have to pay for the lights, but we're getting a savings.
Yeah, but there is no upfront cost. It's
No,
amortized
it's
out.
amortized over the life of the light.
To
I don't
me,
give
it's
the impression that we're not paying
There is
for
no
the light.
fiscal impact. They're absorbing it. It will be costed out for the life expectancy of the lights. We're not paying them to install.
We're paying for the light.
Incorporated in our monthly bill.
Yeah.
That's right. We pay every month, right. The monthly bill will go down, though.
More than the cost of the light, yes. We should save money. That's the projection.
Am I saying this wrong? Y'all understand, they're going to put them in, they're not billing us for it, and they're going to enjoy
There's no cost up front. It's in the monthly bill, and we're going to save $420 a month.
Okay, let me see if I got this right. The monthly bill is $3 a lot. It's going to go down to $1.50, but they're going to keep it at $3.
Whatever the cost of the bill goes into, we amortize the cost of the light over the life of the light bulb. But the savings of using LED should more than offset that. What is not a correct statement is to say they're absorbing the cost of it. They're not absorbing the cost of it because they are passing the cost of the light to us, but the savings should offset it. That's the only point I was making.
There is no fiscal impact.
As long as the projections come through, you're right.
There is no fiscal impact projected. Is that better?
That's getting better. Getting there.
Over 70% of the lights in this city.
Holly Hill by now?
Over 70% of the lights in the city are 75%, I lost track of, 70%, 70 watts. 70 watts, I'll get out. They'll all be replaced with a minimum of 100 watts. These lights are brighter, which we desperately need. Correct me if I'm wrong on anything, council. I desperately need, and secondly, they're more focused on the roadway. Any lights that we have in the city that's over 100 watt will be replaced, in sodium will replaced with the same wattage in LED. For example, we got 3 over here on US 1 at 400 watts. They'll go back with LED replacements at 400 watts. Okay? If all planned, we should have this project, or they should have the project completed by this fall.
I don't see this as a pilot project. Are we the only one?
No, they've done it a lot in South Florida, and Palm Coast has it right now. Go up and look at theirs.
Poncello did it last month. They approved the same run.
But if you want to see the difference in an LED versus a yellow sodium, go up to Palm Coast and look.
Well, I'm a believer. There's no issue here.
Any questions?
We're going to get sumac on there too, right?
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Okay. It's only been a year. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, yeah, Scott. Consideration approving I'm sorry, where?
D, I think.
D, yep. I got that one. Consideration approving an agreement with Volusia County for the utilization of the uniform method of collection of non-ad valorem assessments.
Scott, do you want to address that?
That's just the agreement we need to execute with the property appraiser tax collector to utilize the ad valorem assessment process, which is, we've discussed quite a bit, and this is just another step in getting it set up.
I need a motion with it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion?
No, I think it's
I
about
have a
time.
quick question. It's 55 cents per unit is our assessment. What's a unit?
Oh, I think it's a parcel.
Parcel?
And it will only be the ones, I think, that we actually levy an assessment on. So, this isn't going to be every parcel in the city. It can only be maybe 10 parcels, so we get charged $5.50 or something like that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scotty, if you would please, ordinance 18-04 by title.
Ordinance number 18-04 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of South Daytona, Florida, creating Chapter 2 Administration, Article 7, Code Enforcement, Division 4, Assessment for remedying code violations and public nuisances. Creating a special assessment for costs incurred by the city to remedy code violations and public nuisances. Designating the entire city as a special assessment district and authorizing the collection of such assessments through the non-ad valorem assessment collection process allowed pursuant to Chapter 197 Florida statutes, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
This is a first reading. I need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Giarbro,
What this ordinance does, of course, it incorporates it by law, but it also tells us our procedures administratively, the notices that we need to get out, when we need to get them out. And as I mentioned to you earlier, you will have July the 10th an approval of those assessments before they're sent.
It also creates the whole special assessment district. This is what creates the authority for us to do the whole code assessment that we talked about. It creates the district as the entire city, and as the city manager indicated, it outlines the procedures that we go through. And every year, we'll adopt a resolution as the city manager referenced, assuming we have unpaid expenses that incurred in the previous year.
Do we have a feel for how many we have a typical year, Joe?
Right now, we're looking at, there's a criteria that the property appraiser wants. I think the first assessment that we'll go through will be in the $13,000 range. Now, that's an accumulation of several years. No further back than 7 years. So, kind of give you a judge, we may end up having more just because now we have a method of collecting it now. It may be something the city does.
I guess the question was, how many offenders do we have a year? Was that what I heard?
Well, that was going to be part of it.
Well, it's really, there's a lot of, of code violations we have that we do spend money, like mowing. But those have to accumulate for a while before we're allowed to do this process. So there's numerous out there that we are collecting on, but there's only about $12,000 worth that have met that minimum threshold that the property appraiser wants. The vast majority that we do, my guess would be, would not meet that threshold the first time through. If we have a public nuisance where we tear down a structure, which we don't do very often, that would obviously go the first time above the 1,500. There may be, I think there was another one we just recently did that went above the 1,500 on a cleanup. It would have to be a pretty large cleanup to trigger it. Most of these will be mowings and things like that that will slowly build up to the 1,500 before we can do the actual assessment.
We're still going to leave properties.
Yeah, we still bill them. And, yes, we still do it.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. You want to do F, Mr. Yeoman?
Consideration of retaining an ICMA senior advisor to assist in the recruitment of a city manager. At the last meeting, there was some hesitation and there wasn't an actual vote on proceeding. You did approve the calendar of where we need to be monthly in the recruitment of a replacement for your city manager, but we hesitated on whether, or you wanted to meet with at least the senior advisor to get a feel for what ICMA does in the recruitment process before you made a decision on whether to use a recruitment firm that could cost anywhere between $25,000 and $40,000, or use the ICMA senior advisor and just pay for your advertising yourself and use them for assistance and screening. Now, 4 out of 5 of you have been able to meet with Ken Parker, who has replaced Dick Kelton, who was going to be the senior advisor, and I think you're scheduled to meet with him. Everybody knows Mr. Parker. He will be the senior advisor assigned by ICMA to assist in the recruitment, if that's your decision.
I need a motion, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any comments?
I'm completely comfortable with Mr. Parker.
Absolutely.
I see no reason to go out and get a professional at big dollars.
I agree.
My 2 cents, even though I haven't I'll sit down with him on Thursday, I feel better. Well, I spoke about it and kind of doing the HR recruiting thing for a living, looking through all this, we're going in the right direction. I feel very strongly, and I feel better knowing it's going to be the former city manager of our sister city, even than when it was going to be someone else, and I felt good with it even at that. So I can't see anything meeting with Mr. Parker on Thursday is going to change my mind. I think this is the right direction for us to go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll take G, consideration approving a 5-year capital infrastructure projects program contingent upon the passage of the half-cent sales tax.
Yes, sir. We're still hopeful the county will get will vote to put this on the ballot for the November election. We are also optimistic that they will comply with the special audit that's required that passed this year in the legislature as an amendment to an appropriations bill that no one caught, and that we will prevail on the half-cent sales tax if the cities do their job, and that is to clearly identify what this money will be spent for in your community. It was the manager's conclusion that it's fine to have a 20-year list, but we need to be able to refine that list of what the public can expect in our city, each city, in the first 5 years. And what you have in your agenda packet is an excellent job by Deputy Manager Les Gillis. What he put together for you is projects that weren't prioritized for obvious reasons, so we don't know whether we're going to be able to leverage some for funds that may take a couple of years for matching funds. Some we know we can get on right away, like some of this paving that we're way behind on. The Great Recession's put us back at least a decade on maintenance. We got a map attached that literally shows the public every neighborhood where this money will be spent. I think it's a great list, a great proposal that he's got before you, and I'm hoping that you adopt it, and then we start campaigning for the purpose of educating the public of why this half cent's so important. And here, look, this is where the money's going.
I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. You staying?
For this one,
Okay. You want to read it then?
the number H,
Sir.
consideration of approving a conditional special exception for a bar located at 1903 South Ridgewood Avenue.
We have staff on that, Mr. Mayor, if I may. John Dillard.
John Dillard, Community Development Director. This is the property on South Ridgewood. It's called the old A-frame. I believe it was the original Soundcrafters building in 1903. There's been several restaurants, a few other things. It's been empty for quite a while. We've got a individual that is interested in opening up a bar there. The memo goes through the requirements of that, and the main sticking point was the buffering around it. And of course, that is, you've got commercial on two sides of it. You got Ridgewood that on the west side, but the largest one is actually an R3 zoning on the east end of it. According to our buffering requirements in our code, there are some trade-offs with distances and a wall or a fence. What the individual is proposing to put in there to meet the requirements is a setback of 10 feet with some vegetation plantings and also a PVC fence, and that would be on the eastern side of the property. And on the southern side of the property, it's kind of interesting, it's also business general commercial, it's the same zoning, but since there is no development on it, it's a vacant lot, it has a low impervious level, so it actually has a higher difference between that and this site where this bar is proposed to go in. So it requires some plantings along the south boundary, even though there's nothing in the adjacent property at this time. But that was the biggest sticking point. It does meet all the buffering requirements or the setbacks from Warner Christian and from any other standalone bar. I think Mark's is the next closest one. So it's well outside of those distances. The proposed owner is here this evening, Adam Winterstein, and he and I would be happy to help answer any questions y'all might have on this.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
And I had a lengthy conversation with the city manager yesterday. First of all, I want to go over any positive movement on Ridgewood in our business corridor. I think is great. So thank you for looking at the property and stuff. I just had a couple questions more tied. One, John, you could answer. I see the LDRB passed it 6-1. I don't want to get into the specifics.
Yes,
but was there lengthy conversation there? Was there a reason for the consenting vote, or was it
No, it was just
6-1 vote? Okay.
6-1 vote.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know if someone's falling on their sword for something that we're
Yes.
missing here or something, for the sake of, for that board. And what kind of, say it this way, what kind of bar are we kind of looking at? Because when I know the property, we know the parking lot, we know these kinds of things, as I shared with the city manager, I think we have a desire for, again, business and those kinds of things, but to pick on a business that I'm familiar with, I think the city manager and I both have some struggles during bike weeks with and stuff like that, like roadside tavern and stuff like that, turn into these musics and all those kinds of things that all, I really don't have an interest in having a couple time a year type of biker kind of thing, nothing against bikers, but you know where I'm going with that, where something just has a lot of activity there. So maybe if we could speak to that, because I know the layout of the plan has the availability for parking lot, and if it's going to be for cars and classic cars, different concepts.
He is only leasing that one individual piece. He's not picking up the vacant property to the south, so he's going to be limited to the parking area in that specific place. My understanding is, in the memo, it says beer and wine only, but once you get the special exception, you're not really limited to that. So that's one thing that you take into consideration. But also that he talked about the way it was going to be operated, and he probably could.
Yeah, he's standing up behind you. So, more, I guess, a little bit more of the business model kind of stuff like that. So.
Good evening. My name is 535 Cambridge Circle here in South Daytona for the past 3 years. I've got 5 years in the bar experience in Holly Hill. Some of the issues I heard tonight earlier about Mark's Sports Pub addressed the sound issue. Never once had that complaint in my old establishment in Holly Hill. I left the city with good rapport. Really do have law enforcement involved with them. I kept everything on the up and up with them. Prior to being in the bar business, I was a social worker for 7 years. I worked through the Volusia County School District as a behavior specialist. Did family counseling in the state of Iowa, and worked for Our Children First, which was along Ridgewood and Daytona. Now it's closed. So, for the bar business, I had experience working in the mental health field. Now I'm kind of different. Now doing substance abuse.
I haven't seen the layout. Where's the front door? Is the front door going to be the same front door?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 2 doors.
Well, let me ask you this. You heard the complaint earlier tonight about the loud music at Mark's. Well, this lady lived almost directly across from where you're proposing to place this.
Yeah.
So this is the second meeting she's come to with the same, with a similar noise complaint. I guess I get it that Mark's Bar is probably, when they open the bar, they open the door to leave, the loud music she hears, she calls, the door closes, it's not there. I get that. So if we say yes to this, what are you going to do so she doesn't?
Like I said in the past, I've never had...
As the next complaint. She's gone.
Okay, yeah.
I'm disappointed she left. I was hoping she'd stay.
Because she actually brought that up, and I like to use Mark's as a reference because that's something I'm not going to be. I've been in this town, Daytona area, for about 12 years now. I'm from Iowa. I'll be honest, I have nothing against Mark himself, but the crowd that brings in, the environment, the motorcycle gangs, that's something I do not stand for, and I will not stand for. Like I said, I've been in the bar business for 5 years. I had a biker bar. This is not going to be that place. This is going to be more geared towards older people, people in the hot rod scene, classic cars. Just a quiet place. It's going to be beer and wine initially. I would like to have liquor down the road, but I'm going to focus on craft beers. In Holly Hill, my bar was more of a dive bar. But I was in Holly Hill, and it kind of just fit the location and the mood for the environment. Nothing against Holly Hill. I love the town. It's a much nicer town. So you change to the environment.
Yeah, you're sitting to the right council to say that.
Yeah. I like South Daytona. I want to buy a home in South Daytona. I want to have my family here. I want to have a business here.
I guess the basic question is, what kind of draw? What are you going to do to draw the crowd? What kind of entertainment? What kind of food?
No food. That's why we're here today. It's avoid food. I have no interest in serving food. It's going to be just a standalone bar. It's going to be more of a 50s theme bar. Classic cars, hot rods. So very vintage, nostalgic environment. My employees will be in pin-up, like 50-style dresses, things of that nature. A lot of old car parts on the walls. And just kind of, like I said, geared towards the 50s.
Kind of like your garage?
Kind
of. I have several. My father does too, so it's...
So you don't plan on having bands, per se?
Not very often, no. In my 5 years at my old location, I had 5 bands. 5 years. I don't like live music. I don't like karaoke.
There's no outside amplification.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything outside. It's parking.
So we're talking about a Cheers type bar?
Yeah, it's a quieter place, absolutely. There's not a lot of room there, so I mean, you really can't do a whole lot. It's a pretty small space. The back half was a kitchen and storage. That's what it's going to continue to be. It's 1.5 car garage in the back. I'll probably keep one of my hot rods in that garage, pulled out front, because it's part of the whole theme of the bar, things of that nature. I have a few old motorcycles. I barely even ride them, but I'll probably keep them there since the garage is available. Keep my toolbox. But I mean, the vast majority of that building, being the bar, is quite small. So I really don't have a lot to do in there. There is a guy at Port Orange that does Elvis impersonating, singing. I would like to have him in here once a month. He does a couple restaurants here in town, does a wonderful job. He just has a little karaoke machine, and he just sings Elvis songs. So it fits to that environment, that mood.
I love the fact you live here and you're trying to do a business here and those things. I guess it speaks to, you're kind of walking into where my concerns. I think everyone's been in that place from when it was, there's not a lot of space inside there.
No, really.
From a business model standpoint, where are you getting enough revenue unless stuff's flowing over into the parking lot? And then if that's flowing over into the parking lot, then that's when we're going to have the complaints, the concerns, and those kinds of issues. So I guess that's where I'm just coming from. And I know you can't have a crystal ball and say this is going to be the most successful place ever, but if you only got so many seats and you're just serving beer, you're going to be serving a lot of beer to just keep the doors open.
I've got experience owning beer and wine bars. You keep your costs down. I'm very efficient at this, something I've done for a lot of years. So you learn how to work things, you know, how to keep your costs down, your profits high. You don't get rich off beer and wine. You know, you don't go into it to be a millionaire. But with beer and wine, the beautiful thing about it is you don't have the headaches. You know, liquor creates a whole different environment. Beer and wine, you don't have the problems. Honestly, at my old location, the issues I would have with drunk people, they came from Chris's Lounge. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Holly Hill. They were overserved in Chris's Lounge. I was walking distance, and guess where they went? It became my headache. And that was usually the case if I had problems. They were overserved at one bar, came down mine. You know, Mark's is kind of like the same thing for me over here. Luckily, it's a little bit more of a distance.
Sounds like a good plan.
I plan on cleaning up the outside, making it look nice and presentable. I have an option to actually buy the building, and that's my intended goal in the lease. It's a 3-year lease with a 2-year option to buy. I've been working on this since May of last year. So, I mean, I've put a lot of time in this. At one point, I was going to go back to working for DCF, and I ended up passing that job and decided I'm going to go back in the bar business. More freedom, more money.
You still counseling?
And so, oh my goodness, yes. Yes, it really hasn't changed much. I went from working with little children, now I'm working with big kids.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Scott, on special use, I just asked the manager, there's no time limit, right? I mean, once we approve this, this is for the life.
My understanding is it goes with the property.
Yeah, it's with the property. There may be a time limit in terms of starting, that you have a year, I believe,
Yeah,
to start
to
the
begin the
special
business,
exception.
but once it's open.
Once it's open, it goes with the property.
Just for clarity on that, it goes with the prior meaning that this
If he sells it,
1903...
if he sells the property,
Yeah.
the buyer has the same special exception. It transfers with the ownership.
So by this action, we're turning this into a potential bar location? Forever?
Yeah.
I got another guess, I just, eyes wide, okay. Because I know a lot of times our special exceptions just
And
for
there's
that.
probably, I think there's a provision that if they cease operation for a year,
Right,
then
then
the
it
special
reports back.
exception goes away, so.
If you don't need that license, it will expire, application not long after.
But just so I'm clear, once we do this, then if he sells it next year, then the new owner doesn't have to do anything he said, right? He can turn it into a biker bar or anything else.
I believe so.
Well, it's the, yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
They could change it into a bar. It's not subject to what he's represented here. And now we have all the other regulations we have about the operations. But yeah, this is not limited to, this isn't a special exceptions for a 50s beer and wine place. This is a special exception for a bar.
The clientele that comes and goes is not something we can't, but the outside
The
When you say,
noise.
Joe, amplification of sound and those kinds of, those are all still going to play in?
Yes.
Piece.
And we're actually going through the process right now of beefing up our noise regulations.
Could it be turned into an adult club?
No. Totally separate regulation.
Light industrial.
I just wanted to make sure. Not what I want to see on US 1, like we have in Daytona.
The rumor has it you need a little bigger place to have an efficient.
I have no idea.
Not that.
I have no idea.
Let's vote on this.
All right.
I have a public hearing on this. We need a motion first, right? Need a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. This is a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak for or against the proposed ordinance, now's your time. Seeing and hearing none. Any other discussion?
It is conditional because there are some improvements that need to be made, and before we can open it, the improvements have to be in place.
But he's got a year to open.
Right.
So just one more question, if I may. If during that year he sells the property,
He doesn't own it, he's renting it.
well, with an option to buy.
Yeah, he said 2 years.
The special exception, the 1 year doesn't start.
Nothing against you personally. I don't know you. I like your idea, but I'm having a hard time swallowing what could come after you.
I've been, this is my retirement, so I look at it.
The 1 year doesn't start.
You don't have job security, this is my future.
But if somebody offered you a big paycheck, you could sell it, go.
This place has sat vacant for how many years? And this place has
I'm
sit-
just-
I'm the only person that wants it. That's how I got the negotiations down. I've loved this property for years, I've really liked it. At one point I wanted to expand over to South Dakota to my other location, and then became a restaurant for roughly 8 months as a hamburger restaurant. It went under. Okay, someone opens a restaurant, you can still see the same issues that you're concerned about with, you know, someone goes up to a restaurant right now, serve beer, that's licensed to do that, and they can turn into a biker bar that serves hamburgers. And you can still have the pagans or the outlaws in there. I mean, being a bar or being a restaurant that's serving beer or wine, it doesn't really change things.
Okay, apparently you can't sit and talk, you have to come up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't have to repeat it, we got it.
We got it.
Okay, yeah. I tore my pants earlier, so I'm probably trying.
Guess we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It's 5-0 recorded.
With reservations. Consideration of recognizing, and how do you pronounce this, Chinchor Electric as the only bid for the replacement of the illuminated street signs damaged by Hurricane Irma and approving a contract not to exceed $38,500. Need a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Mr. Yarborough?
Second bid, second time we've been out for bid, finally found someone that would replace them. They're not cheap, FEMA qualified.
One bid.
Oh, the new lights are supposed to have, they're not to end up in the neighbor's property as quickly. They've got some wind resistance, and they spin when they break off on the ends, so shouldn't be quite
So
the
the-
damage.
Okay. Just made a larger missile.
I had a lot of good, positive comments on the lights before they blew away, but they're great, but I just couldn't believe what they cost. Oh, my God, but thank God it's reimbursable. So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Pretty good weather.
Where are we at here, Jay? Consideration of recognizing P&S Paving as low bid and awarding the contract for Teague Street resurfacing not to exceed $56,460.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is your sewer project, CDBG funds to extend it from Magnolia up to Teague, pick up all those homes. There's a paving element. That's something that we can't do in-house. And competitively bid, and PNS came in low. Importantly, we move on with the award. It's required under the grant.
Need a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion?
No, I'm very pleased with the bid and pleased with PNS getting it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consideration of reappointing one full member to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. That's your overall.
This and the next three items, although different boards, are all consideration for incumbents to be reappointed, which I think is good. It doesn't provide for any new applicants, which means that there wasn't a lot of other people wanting to take on these tasks. Your appointment for this Board of Adjustments and Appeals is identified in the transmittal memo from staff, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head who it is. Yeah. All right. You have any other questions? It's you know, in this board you want disciplines for the board members, and this would cover your general contractor. It's Gerald Masters.
I need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consideration of reappointing 4 full members and 1 alternate member to the Land Development Regulation Board.
Again, Mr. Mayor, these are disciplines you shoot for. All of these bring some discipline with whether it's engineering tech or business owner or construction services. You're looking at Phil Tremarchi, Mike DeBloom, Ron Poland, Eric Dixon for reappointees, and as an alternate, David Berry.
Need a motion, please, for approval.
Second?
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consideration number M, consideration of reappointing 3 full members to the Parks and Recreation Board.
You're looking at 3 reappointments. I'm just looking, you have Tara DeBloom, Ruthie Davison, and Gary Wandell that have asked to be reappointed.
Need a motion, please?
Move for approval?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Wasn't that bad? Hour and a half. Unscheduled items, council member comments. Mr. Schiller, we can start with you.
Thank you, sir. I'm really pleased with the St. John's award of that grant. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean,
Oh, by the way, we were 7th out of 54. That's not bad.
It gets better and better, so that's great. It's good to hear about the project coming down. Finally, we got something happening on US 1. It's welcome news. And I want to thank all the members of the boards that agreed to hang on another term. Thank you very much. And that's it.
Pretty much piggyback Ralph, and that's about it. Thank you.
Ms. Wong?
Yeah, and I again, thanks to those people who do volunteer for our boards. It's wonderful and it helps our city. I also am so excited about the septic to sewer, which again, thanks to the grant writers and our staff, that'll be such a wonderful help to the city and to the environment. And finally, I would just like to make some comments about some of the comments that were made earlier today. And I would just like to say that in no way am I trying to undermine the city with their code. I'm just trying to be empathetic. which I guess is a criticism, but I also want everyone to know that every complaint that I get, I do encourage our residents to follow the rules. And secondly, especially for some of our residents who have like single driveways or single garages, I encourage them to go to City Hall and check into the program that we have, the beautification, which means you can expand your driveway. And so I know I've sent Patty a few. So, just, if you do have neighbors that have parking problems like that, some people have so many cars and so little room, but maybe we can continue to encourage them to go talk to Patty Rippey and see if they can get in the beautification, expansion of the driveways. And I saw one today that I drove by. The sign is there, and the guy will have plenty of parking, so thank you very much.
Vice Mayor. I will also pay back thank you to everyone who volunteers on all these boards. I know it was a great way for me to get involved many years ago, so not only to the people and their time and energy and effort, but also to get out there. I know all these boards are always looking for alternates and new people to sign up and all those things. So again, encourage your neighbors to get out there and all those, which leads to I'm very excited for our May meeting. I think I was on the Land Development Board about 10 years ago when we were laying out all these plans for these enormous complexes. Sometimes things move slowly, but we'll start getting some things there. And thank you to the police department. Thank you, Mark, Steve, Jerry, for you guys stepping up and for all these things during these challenging times. Thank you guys. So that's all I have.
I'm going to echo what the Vice Mayor said. Mark, I've been there. Chief Monahan, been there too. Steve, I know you guys do a great job backing him up. So give him the support you gave me, because I sure appreciate it every day working with you. You shocked me tonight, man. You walked in the door with a suit and tie, and I didn't know who you were. I got to tell you, I sat up here and I was listening to him talk, and I took a double take. I was like, wow, we got a black tie event tonight. Bless you. It takes a lot to take my breath away, and you did tonight. You did really good.
And Lester right there. That's not just Lester.
That's right. That's Lester. There we go. But I wish you well on your establishment.
Yeah.
I don't normally indulge outside, but I will pay a visit once you get open and at least have a iced tea with you. But and on that, meeting adjourned. Iced tea. Hey. Bye.